So I got a question from a guy named Amit, and here's what he says. Hi, Brian. I know you from Pandora's Box and have read many of your articles. I think you're the guy to ask about my problem. I'm okay at approaching women and conversation, although I am introverted. But every time I talk to a girl, it feels like there's no spark. There's no flirting. It just kind of fizzles out. Even when I get a phone number, it's hard to get girls to meet me. I suspect it's due to the lack of sexual energy in the interaction. Based on what I've read from you, the main cause of flaking is a lack of sexuality. How can I spice things up in conversation and get women to see me as sexy? Signed, Amit.
Good to see you. I'm Brian Burke, the founder of GoBeyondDating.com. I want to thank Amit for sending me the email that I'm going to answer today, and I'm calling this the sexual spark. This is a problem a lot of guys have, is that they can meet a woman, they can talk to her, they can get into small talk, especially after you have a couple of drinks, maybe you're at a bar, you loosen up a little bit, and there's women around, and you talk to them. But you can't seem to get that sexuality in there. It feels like you're just talking in a platonic way. There's no real juice or excitement to it. There's no spark, right? And you can feel that. You know how that feels when you're just talking, and your mind's racing, and you're like, okay, I want to sleep with this woman, or at least I want to maybe not sleep with her right away, although that's okay, and I can help you do that. Maybe sometimes you're just thinking, I like her, and I'm not feeling a thing here. I'm not feeling any sort of energy, any sort of connection here. And it comes down to a lack of sexuality in the conversation. So even if you just maybe want to get to know her, talk to her, get her number, maybe see her again later, you know that you have an intuitive sense that your connection initially is sexual. And so you want to be able to trigger that sexual spark. Okay, so let's get into how to do that. Okay, so the problem, first of all, on the most fundamental level, is that, and you can see it in the question, in Amit's question, he's trying to make the woman be turned on and make her see him as sexy. Okay, so why is that a problem? And again, I think this is something that a lot of guys can relate to. You're talking to this girl, you want her to, it's almost like you want her, or you're waiting for her to give you something to work with. And I know that this is something that I struggled with early on. When I was younger, before I really got serious about fixing this problem in my life, I used to be awful with women, by the way. I used to have severe social anxiety, scared girls away every time they would talk to me. I was really awkward, and I got dumped by the first girl that I really fell in love with. Although you could say I loved this other girl that I dated in high school, and that's just kind of how I was. Like, a girl liked me, oh my God, I love her. Anyways, this girl dumped me in my early 20s, and I fell apart. It was the end of the world. And then I sort of got back on my feet and said, okay, no, I can't do this anymore. I have to fix this. I became in my early, my childhood and teen years, I became good at drawing. I became a good writer. I worked really hard at becoming better at soccer. And so there were different things in my life that I had consciously become better at. And I said, well, maybe I can do that with women. Maybe. But I have to, even if I can't, I have to try, because being lonely, being socially awkward and afraid of people and women, and just falling apart every time a woman likes me and then I mess it up, and then just simply going out and seeing all these beautiful women and not being able to do anything with them was driving me nuts, okay? So, first part of this, sexual identity. This really comes down to thrust. Thrust is the T in ACT leadership. The ACT leadership system is the kind of a big picture of what I teach. And I go really into depth with it. I cover all the bases in a sexual supremacy audio course if you're interested in learning more about that. But we'll get into that right now. So identity, you need to have a sexual identity. Remember Amit said, I want her to see me as sexy. Sexy is not the way to go. You want to be sexual, and I'll explain the difference. Thrust. This might seem like a strange word, basically that is your energy or masculine essence. That's who you are always. So in the way that you want to do well in your career and move forward in your career, that's thrust. That's your masculine energy. You want to impact the world in a positive way. All right. So you want the world to feel you. You want the world to feel your power. And it's an outward movement. The way you move through life is outward, impacting the world, affecting the world, and women. Okay? So really this impact is not about necessarily, when we think about helping the world, you kind of get this picture of like countries and buildings and the land. It's not, it's about consciousnesses. It's about other people. So when you make your impact, what you're really talking about is your consciousness impacting another's. Right? So that's where thrust comes in. Thrust applies to your life. It applies to women when you approach them. It applies when you're fucking them. It applies in your relationships with them. And it applies when you're on the damn basketball court and you want to have a good game. It's all thrust. That's who you are. Okay, resistance versus acceptance. So the sexual identity, if you don't see yourself as sexual, women won't. It always starts with you. So the most empowering thing you can do with anything, with any endeavor, is take responsibility. You've always been leading. So every woman that has rejected you or ignored you or flaked out on you, now flaking can be a little complicated, but you have to take responsibility for the fact that you have always been leading and you've always been telling women and people how to treat you. You do this with messaging. It's not a verbal thing. It's a whole body, it's paralanguage, basically. Every message, by the way, that's the third level of thrust, it's messaging. Every message you send tells people about who you are. Now let's look at resistance. Resistance is basically the foundation that the mind is built on. It's all about saying no to that so that I can have an identity. Right? Now, what you want to do is get rid of as much resistance as possible. That'll bring you into the moment, and what it does is it frees up your energy to operate more effectively. The more you're in your head saying, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I don't feel sexy, I'm not good looking, I'm not tall enough, I'm not big enough, strong enough, good looking enough, that's resistance. You're resisting who you are. What you want to do is accept that. When you do that, it actually frees up a lot of energy to actually operate and start to address the problems you have. So what I want you to do is accept that you might be short, or you might be really skinny, or overweight, or not good looking, or very inexperienced, or maybe you're a virgin, or maybe you're really depressed because your girlfriend dumped you. Accept it. Say, yep, that's where I'm at. Okay, what that does is it naturally allows your focus to move on problem solving. Okay, there's two ways you can use your mind. You can ruminate and worry about the past, or regret the past and worry about the future, or you can be in the moment where reality is and get to task. Okay, so that's why guys love to work on cars and love to draw and do in code and do like all these like things where we're just totally focused, because it brings us into the moment, and that's when we really feel like we're at our best. Sex is another example of that, where you come into the moment and you're doing something right now. Okay, the more you ruminate and worry about whether you're good looking enough or whether girls like you, the more that actually depletes your energy, distracts your focus. The other thing is that creates dissonance in your body. I use a resonance dissonance model of emotion. So anytime you feel like a bad feeling, that's dissonance, just like a dissonant chord, a discordant chord on the piano, for example. It sounds nasty. We don't like it. In the same way with our bodies, okay? Your levels aren't aligned. Your direction is not aligned with your focality, and that's not aligned with your messaging. So what we want to do is we want to get all those aligned, and what that does is that that alignment basically consolidates and magnifies your energy, okay? Thrust. See that? All right, just like a rocket ship. You got the one booster is misaligned with another one, that rocket ship's going to go, right? Okay, so that's the same way that's the same kind of thing that happens in your life when there's too much resistance, you're not accepting, and you're not in the moment solving the problem. How to be in the moment, that's that's basically the I-PACE vocality system. And I sort of get into it over here, but to really get a good understanding of it, that's in sexual supremacy. Okay, let's talk about values and value. Now, value is a term that gets thrown around a lot in the like the pickup community. What I hear a lot is guys worrying about demonstrating higher value when talking to women. So it's almost like a competition. Like you approach this woman, and you need to be more valuable than her. Because there's this idea that women are constantly like climbing this ladder of status. No. Okay, so what's really going on here, I think under the surface of all this value talk, is there's this feeling that the woman is on a pedestal. She's more attractive, more valuable than you are. And so you somehow have to either bring her down or bring yourself up over her. And then more natural pickup stuff is like, you want to be of equal value. And I like that better. But to be honest, thinking about value in that way is just not effective. It's just not conducive to your learning, to your progress. And to be honest, I never think about it. It's just not something I think about. Which brings me to my first point. To really be dominant in a social situation, by dominant I mean you're kind of the guy. You're the one that everyone is mentally a little bit concerned with. You want him to like you, and he's sort of the center of focus, or he seems to be the leader, okay? Leader. I'm going to use that word a lot because that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about seduction, attraction, pickup, not game. You're not running game on girls anymore. You're a leader now. It's leadership. So, value. I never think about it. If you are thinking about who's higher value and who's the alpha male, you're not the alpha male. Because the alpha male doesn't think about that. He's thinking about leadership and what that means in a practical application, in a social situation. It's about team building. I'm always building my team. If I go to a bar, I meet a cool guy, I add him to my team. If I meet a girl, I like her, she turns me on, I add her to my team. This is Brian's team. This is my life team. Okay? Now, if a woman's on my team, that means, we hang out together, we have fun together. She doesn't detract from my life. And we have sex. And that sex is an addition to my life. It's a way for me to enjoy myself and relax and have some fun and connect with another person. So I'm definitely not thinking about where I'm at in terms of value. Now, here's the thing about value. Your value is where it's at when you approach a woman. Okay. Now you can do little things to kind of, using framing techniques and, maybe stuff you read on a forum, maybe to try to make her think that you're cooler than you are. Or you can just develop leadership. And that's what we're doing here. And I'm telling you, it takes less time, less effort. It's long-term. It's permanent. Because you'll never go back. Once you start getting a success based on leadership, you can't revert back in your life. It doesn't happen like that. It's more sustainable, and you just have better quality people in your life, especially women. Okay, so value is just not a thing you should be thinking about until we talk about sexuality, and then I'm going to give you kind of a different twist on it. Now, values. This is what I do think about. I have values that I've thought a lot about. For example, I'll give you my 3 rules for life. Enjoy myself, help others, and try stuff. Okay, so I'm always getting new experiences. Everything I do, is like, for example, what I'm doing right now, helping others. Okay, I'm not, and like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, that helping has a big vision. All right, so that drives me. That kind of motivates me. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning and enjoying myself. As you can see, I'm having fun. Okay, and most of the day, I'm having fun. I'm figuring out a way to have fun with what I'm doing. Now, those are my values. Those are like my rules for life, let's say. If you really want to look at my values, like, a big list of them, let's keep it focused on women. I value sex. I value women's sexuality. This is a big problem a lot of guys have, is they're scared of women's sexuality. They need to reduce them to dolls or robots. press the right sequence of buttons and she drops her panties. Or, women are stupid, or women are crazy, or, we're calling them bitches or hoes or sluts or whatever it is. Chicks, I use those terms here and there. I might call a woman a bitch while I'm fucking her and it's hot. But what guys are doing there is they're just turning women into kind of subhuman so that they seem easier to manage and approach. You'd be better off accepting a woman's full humanity and dealing with her as an individual human being, just as you would want. And I get into that more in the understanding part of this. So my values are what guide me. So let's say, what's the scenario we all picture? You walk into a bar, right? And there's women, and there's other men, and you might have a little anxiety. Okay, there's all these people. And you tend to, we come from primates, right? So we tend to go back a little bit of that monkey mind of like, who's on the higher branch, right? Well, my focus now is I have values, and those values lead to my standards. Okay, so my standards are based on those values. So basically, I have a standard for myself, and I hold myself to that standard, not someone else's standard. This gets back to leading yourself, being a leader at the most fundamental level of yourself. So my standards for myself might be different from other people, but more importantly, I'm okay with that. I like who I am, and I make my own rules and play by them. Okay, so my standards for myself are more important than what other people think of me. It's more important what I think of me. Okay, now this is a shift you're going to have to make over time. It's not instant, but the way to do it is to get really clear on your values. So getting back to the sexual spark stuff, I value sex. I value my own sexuality. I value other women's sexuality. I think sex is a beautiful, awesome, healthy thing. It fits between two consenting adults. So if you think about how this is going to play out. If I meet a woman and she turns me on, and I think sex is good, that's my value. And I think her sexuality is good. And by the way, I know she's sexual, and I'll get into how to really get that hardwired into your mind where you see a woman and you know that, she likes to be touched, she likes to be kissed, she loves dick, she likes to be fucked properly, by the way, and I'll teach you how to do that, actually. So I'm seeing her, I know this, I like my own sexuality. So think about, I'm not going to have any anxiety about maybe with the way I open her. My opener is going to be something sexual and direct. I might tell her she looks great and look her up and down when I do it. And then look in her eyes and smile. And I'm thinking, I will fuck the shit out of you. And she can feel that. No anxiety there about my sexuality. Now, when I'm starting to talk to her and learn about her, I'm asking her questions about her life. That conversation is most likely going to evolve into me asking about what turns her on, and me telling her things I'd like to do to her. Okay, that comes from me being clear on my values, my sexual values, and instead of worrying about my value as far as status. And by the way, you're naturally going to hold other people to those standards too, which doesn't make you a jerk. It means you're going to kind of have a filter that other people can feel, and you're going to end up connecting with higher quality people, that you meet. It also gets rid of a lot of anxiety because having standards leads to a screening focus, and we get anxiety from worrying what others think of us. But if you're screening others in and out of your life, and essentially team building, you find your anxiety diminishes. Okay, I'll give you a new paradigm as far as your value and being sexy or being attractive. Sexual over sexy, right? Don't worry about being sexy because there's always another guy sexier than you. You want to instead focus on your own sexuality. Now, there might be another guy in the bar that's better looking than me, that's cooler than me, has more money than me, is better dressed than me, has more friends and more women with him than me. But one thing that guys don't realize is that your sexuality is valuable to a woman. When you first meet a woman, you can assume that she has friends, family, platonic relationships, coworkers, all these people in her life. Her sexual relationships are going to be she's going to have much less sexual relationships than she does, platonic and family and all that. And a lot of times women won't be having a sexual relationship. I've met so many, what you could call like tens, like what I felt were absolutely beautiful women that told me, I haven't slept with a guy in 6 months. I haven't had sex in a year. I was dating a guy for a month and he just got weird on me. That's what happens with the most beautiful women. They have the biggest droughts or dry spells. It's because they know what they deserve, but guys act crazy with those women. If they even talk to them, most guys chicken out. Okay, that's a little edge you have, and I'll probably get into that more when we talk about approaching in depth. But basically what I'm saying is your sexuality is actually something that you're offering her, something you can offer her. Now, this gets into actually being good in bed. That's not hard to do, and I'll tell you how to do it. But, you're offering something to her. And if you don't communicate sexuality, as you probably intuitively can feel, which is why Ahmed asked this question, and I think a lot of other guys have asked me this question as well, it's something I struggle with, you can probably feel that if you can't express your sexuality, it's going to fizzle out. She's not going to be interested, right? Now, what a lot of guys will do when they're communicating their sexuality is they'll maybe do like the sly player smile or like the knowing look, like, or like, it's hard to impersonate. But I know I've done it. I'll probably do it at some point in the future. But what you want your sexuality to come off more like innocent. You're just happy and excited. Okay, you're happy to be here. You're happy to see her. But so when I talk to women and I'm communicating my sexuality, I'm just as excited and happy as I'm talking to you right now. I don't change. I don't have like the talking to girls look like, hey, what's up? I don't do that. The way I'm communicating with you right now is how I talk to women. Okay, I'm expressive. I'm excited. I'm happy. Or if I'm in a chill mood, I'm just relaxed. But I don't change. And that's because I don't feel bad about my sexuality. That was something I had to fix. So your sexuality is your value at first. The fact that you want to fuck her is good because that's going to make her feel good. Sex equals good, okay? So when you think about it, she's got all these other people in her life. She may or may not be getting laid. But one assumption you can make is that she's probably not having really good sex. Most women are not, if she's having sex at all. And like I said, the most beautiful women a lot of times go on really long dry spells. So when she meets another guy who's afraid to show his sexual interest, he's playing it safe because he might have a chance with this really hot girl, she's bored. Now, to get really clear on your sexuality, to really kind of cultivate it, you need to know what you want. How many times have you heard a woman say, I like a man who knows what he wants? This plays out. That's not just about one thing. That little piece of advice is applicable to everything. You know what you want, you approach her because you know what you want, and you go for it. That's another thing women say. I want a man who goes for what he wants. You see her, you want her, you go for it. Now, this also applies to sex. Okay? Knowing what you like and going for it and enjoying it. So the way to become more sexual, to feel more sexual, not sexy, you're not good looking, you're not a handsome man. That doesn't matter. Your sexuality is your value at first with the woman. So here's how you get clear on your sexuality. When you get clear on it, when you become consciously aware of it, it naturally develops and builds and you can cultivate it. And actually what it does is it awakens an energy in you. And you'll notice that whatever we think is important, whatever we're aware of, we tend to gravitate towards that in our interactions. And we tend to express that. People who are really intuitive or empathic can tend to feel what's going on with you. And women obviously are very empathic. They can sort of tell what's going on with you. Now, if you feel sexual, it's good stuff, right? She's going to be excited. So, what turns you on? what specifically turns you on? When I'll ask women what turns them on, what they like in a man. Women will ask me, and they'll say, you know, are you a leg guy? Are you a breast guy? You know, every guy's like a breast guy or a leg guy or butt guy or whatever. Well, I'm a details guy. Now, yeah, I have my preferences about different things, but what really gets me going, really excites me when I'm alone with a woman is to kind of explore the little details of her body. So this part of her neck, behind her earlobe, between her shoulder blades, behind her knees, her ankles, the inside of her wrists, or the inside of her elbow. All these little kind of hidden spots, the parts that you wouldn't normally see or wouldn't normally pay attention to. To me, that's exciting because it's like I'm exploring her. And I kind of know where to start with that exploration, but each woman is different, and I treat her that way. And so her body, it sounds corny, but like the John Mayer song, "Your Body is a Wonderland." Well, it's exciting to me to explore a woman's body and see specifically what turns her on, how to touch her, how she likes to be kissed and nibbled and all that stuff. So that's why these things turn me on, is because it's feminine, it's exciting, it's a new kind of, I'm exploring, it's a new part of her body that I maybe didn't notice, and now that I got her alone, I can, you know, do what I want with her. So you can, basically what I'm doing is I'm really articulating and getting clear on what turns me on and why. So I'm not just like, oh, pretty girls, you know, I'm getting really into it, becoming clear on it. And how. What I mean by how here is, how do I like to express this? So I just kind of touched on that. When I'm with a woman, you know, the different things I like to do. You know, I love sort of inflicting a little bit of pain to show a woman how sexy I think she is. So I like to spank women. I like to kind of grab them by right above their arms, like from behind, just kind of grab them and pull them in. And it might feel like a little scary at first. She's like, whoa, this guy's grabbing me. But I'm doing it with love. It's like, you excite me so much, get over here. Okay? You know, when I fuck a woman, I do like to go deep and kind of make it hurt a little bit. And that's just because I want to show her how fucking hard I am for her, and how she made me like that. She made me hard. She inspired that. And so when I'm deep inside of her and throbbing for her, she can feel how turned on I am for it, and how she did that to me. And now it's inside of her. It's this kind of crazy cycle of sex. Other things, you know, I like to slap women with my dick. I like to kind of throat fuck them. I like to choke them a little bit. But I also like to do really soft, sensual, gentle things with women. I like to kind of lick them under their rib cage and nibble right here on the side of their pelvic bone. So I like to be really sensual and soft and treat them like delicate flowers as well. I like to do both. That's how. It's not important. You can kind of listen to what I'm saying and think about yourself. But what you really need to see is how into this I'm getting. That's really important, because imagine if I said the stuff I just said now to a woman, she will be fucking wet. And that's what I mean by what turns women on. If you go to my site, gobeyonddating.com, at the top it says what turns women on. There's a double meaning there. Read the articles. What I'm talking about right now, when I show women my articles, when I show them videos, when I talk to them about sex, and when I talk to them about what I teach guys, they get turned on. It's happened so many times where women will say, I'm so fucking horny for you right now. We haven't even slept together yet, and all I'm doing is talking about what I teach. So that's like the meta level. But then, of course, I'm also teaching you how to turn women on, practical application. Okay, so that's where the double meaning comes in. Okay, giving. It's the last part of identity. Guys talk about getting laid, getting girls, getting pussy, getting sex, getting lucky, which I hate that one. You're not getting anything. No woman can really give you anything. She can't complete you. You can enjoy her, but but you don't own her. Okay, he says you haven't gotten anything yet. If you have sex with a woman, once it's over, are you still getting sex? I mean, did you get it? Is it in your pocket now? No, it's not. So this is when, and women can feel this, and this is why women are always saying, I'm not ready to give it up. What she really means is, I'm not ready to give up control to you. It's not about giving you her pussy, it's about giving you control. I'll get into that in a second. But guys are so intent on getting. Now, I want to give you a story here. This is the shoplifting story. I usually start off with this in my Lead 7 live coaching programs. I'll start out with the story because it just really kind of illustrates the fundamental problem with men, the fundamental problem with how men struggle to relate to women, especially with the gender roles kind of blurring now. Okay, so when I was in middle school, a buddy of mine told me how to shoplift from Eddie Bauer, I think it was. And so he told me what to do. You take a big sweatshirt, go to the store, put the shirt on, put the sweatshirt over, walk out. You don't have magnets on the shirts. So I'm like, great. And I was in middle school. I didn't have any money, but I wanted some cool clothes. So I go to the mall. Probably got dropped off by my mom, which makes me really cool. And so I go into the Eddie Bauer, and and so I walk in, okay. And I walk in, and I'm really stiff. I'm just like, oh my God, look normal, right? Just look normal. And my hands are sweating. My heart's beating out of my chest. I feel, I already had like a lot of social anxiety, but now it's just to the max. Thought I was going to have a panic attack. So I managed to fiddle around with the clothes. I'm like, and I finally picked the shirt out that I wanted, and I had it planned out already. So I get the shirt, go in the dressing room, do the thing, put the sweatshirt on, come out. And again, terrified, right? And I'm just walking around really tight and nervous, and I'm like, this was the worst part. I just remember this. I don't think I've included this in any other time, but I actually think, this was a long time ago, but I think a clerk asked me if I needed any help. And I was just like, no, thank you. Walked out, right? So I get outside, and I'm like, oh my God, and whatever. My point is, sweaty hands, heart beating out of my chest, nervous, anxious, trying to do it right, trying to look normal and do the right thing. The clerk asked me, do I need any help? And I'm really tight, and I'm like, no. And I'm worried what other people seeing me. This is just like how I felt when I was approaching women. Now this, fast forward to like 10 years later, I'm like 22, like approaching girls on my campus. Same feeling like I'm trying to get something without giving anything. So I went into the store with no money, but I had an intention of getting. So you're always getting. You're always going to be trying to. It's always about you. It's always about your life. You want to get. You want that woman in your life. You want to have sex with her. You want to get that experience, right? But you have to balance it with giving. And the more you can keep that balance equal. See, even when you volunteer or do work for a charity or something, you're still giving. Or you're still getting, excuse me. It's about you doing what you think is right. It's always about you. But you want to also balance it with giving. So when you talk to a woman and you want to get sex from her, but you don't feel like you're giving anything or offering anything, how many times have you felt, I don't have anything to offer? Look, she's so beautiful, I don't have anything to offer. Why would she want to go out with a guy like me? You don't feel like you're giving anything. Well, you are. This is what you're giving. You're giving her your sexuality. Now, that means you got to be good in bed. And that's actually really easy to do.